Hello, my name is Terry Clavin, and I work for the Dictionary of Irish Biography, which is a project of Ireland's foremost learned body, the Royal Irish Academy. And we here at the Academy, through the financial support provided by the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media, are delighted that the €3,000 research grant that we awarded to Aidan Doyle has borne fruit with this invaluable online archive. A Revolution in Profile County Offaly is a local version of the Dictionary of Irish Biography. Both projects are freely available online biographical dictionaries that provide concise, comprehensive and readable accounts of individuals who represent a cross-section of society, one spanning the course of Irish history, the other focusing on County Offaly during that pivotal 1913 to 23 period. By providing the essential facts of a life in a straightforward way, biographical dictionaries aim to be both useful to the expert scholar, yet also accessible to the general reader. They can serve as an information resource or as a starting point for further research. Historians are sometimes prone to being too abstract, too specialised, but biography can inoculate against that. This is especially the case with a rich biographical tapestry, such as this archive, that's rooted in a locality within a certain time frame. I have found that an engagement with the randomness, the idiosyncrasies, the sheer messiness of assorted individual lives gives you a greater appreciation of the complexity of history and of the courses that it might have taken but did not. In biographical dictionaries, you also get to see history through the experiences of those who are normally overlooked or forgotten, whose lives, though they may be less celebrated, are far more representative. On behalf of everyone at the Dictionary of Irish Biography and at the Royal Irish Academy, I offer my congratulations to Aidan Doyle on this glad occasion.
My name is Mark Boland, and I'm here with local historian and author Aidan Doyle, and we're discussing Revolution in Profiles. As you will have heard, Terry Clavin from the Royal Irish Academy has explained to us what a dictionary biography is. And I suppose as I listened to that, Aidan, the one question that really came to mind was, what is a local lad, a Ferban lad, an Offaly lad, doing, taking on a project that is so extensive?
Well, I suppose there's several answers. I suppose a bit of madness as part of it. There's no one going to disagree with that anyway. But it's because you're from Offaly, and it's because you believe that there's a sense of history there. I'm a massive fan of the Royal Irish Academy's Dictionary of Biography. I would read articles there, incredibly accessible, the idea of that. And when I think about Offaly, I would have been thinking about, I'd love to have something like that for Offaly. Something like that doesn't exist, something that's accessible. We've been incredibly lucky with some of the historians we've had from one end of the county to the other here. We've had some brilliant, I won't say local history, but localised history. You know, we've had books about Eden Derry in the period, we've had books about Tullamore, we've had the Historical Society has brought out a series of journals and they've covered it quite well, but we haven't had sort of an effort to cover the whole county. And as someone who is an Offaly man, as someone who probably, you know, a person who's been in most places in this county, a person who's going to be down in the very south of the county on a Tuesday or Thursday night, and is going to be in Eden Derry on match on a Sunday, and maybe in Shannon Bridge that evening. As someone who's from that county, I like the idea that for a county with such variety, we might be able to sort of tell a few stories about it. And we're not trying to turn it into something that it isn't. We are going to say that there is a story there to be told. And the more people that can learn that story, the better. And probably we're trying to give as much information with the least amount of words. So that's the idea.
Okay, and there are 100 profiles already completed. There's 30 more coming. And I suppose a work of that size, of that challenge, isn't a solo run. You must have others involved in how you're telling this story.
Well, I'm incredibly lucky there. I'm incredibly lucky to begin with that the Royal Irish Academy agreed to come behind the project, and that's a lot of prestige as well, because for an independent researcher operating, as you say, maybe out of the centre, that's incredible. I can't believe I was that lucky. Can't believe the sort of people that you would have around you Optimic Internet Solutions. Did a fantastic job and worked very hard on making this site seem very simple, because there's a lot of moving parts, but it's very navigable. I'm running speed bumps now, but the idea that the site is very easy to get through. The idea that if you have an interest and you can see a tag, you can click on that, or the idea that if you want to type in something, you can find that. Very lucky the support I get from my family. I'm also very lucky that there's a group of people who, if I name them, they wouldn't be happy, but they're the checkers. And I think roughly between 50 and 60,000 words in this project. I'd say percentage-wise, we're talking 20% of them are spelled wrong. My punctuation is awful. Some great people come in behind you, great people come in and sort of give you support as regards other historians when you ask them questions, or when I ask you to interview me, or Eddie, I'll go behind the counter, so the camera, so I can't really talk about how lucky I am. So many people come up behind something like this.
And you mentioned to me earlier as well about local historians and their importance in this, and that you really wanted to do something that was of value to them and drawing on their...
Yeah, and it's a two-way street, you know, and certainly in academia maybe there seems to be a bit of a competitiveness, but like, I wouldn't have written a word only for the work of other people, and I hope I'm acknowledging that correctly. The amount of historians we've had who've really worked hard over decades at this stage. I'm someone who's not the most IT literate, but I'm quite lucky in that today I can go to newspaper archives, I can use the military pension archives, Bureau of Military History, and that's all at my fingertips. There are people who are going through these files 30, 40, 50 years ago, you know, and that's all around the county. And what will happen is now I'll start to mention one and I'll leave somebody out. But that's why the decision is, where possible, when a profile is written, there will be an inscription to the person who would have put the most work into that. And the entire project is dedicated to the historians of Offaly, who have really been, who laid the foundation for this work long before I was around.
Patrick Gilligan was born in 1882 at Gallen. As a boy, he enlisted in the army but returned home and worked on the family farm. In June of 1914, a unit of the Irish Volunteers was formed at a meeting held in the Hibernian Hall, Belmont. Patrick Gilligan was appointed commander of the corps. On the outbreak of the war, Gilligan re-enlisted and served with the Dublin Fusiliers. He was killed while fighting on the Western Front in April 1916.
Patrick Doyle was born at Ferban in 1892. He joined the Irish Volunteers while studying medicine in Dublin and served at the Jameson Distillery in Marrowbone Lane during Easter week. Arrested in the aftermath of the Rising, he was interned in Frongoch, Wales. On his release, he helped establish the Republican movement in West Offaly. Involved in the treatment of the sick at Ferban during the Spanish influenza, he was appointed dispensary doctor for Shinrone and Moneygall in 1920. Supporting of the treaty, Doyle served in Shannon between 1937 and 1949. P.J. Doyle passed away in 1964.
Thomas Wallace Allen was born in Gravesend, Kent in 1892. Before joining the British Army, he was employed as an insurance clerk. By 1919, he had risen to quartermaster sergeant in the Middlesex Yeomanry and was stationed at Birr. In March of that year, Thomas Allen was killed when an RAF plane, in which he was a passenger, crashed into a house in Crinkle.
Alan Bell was born in Banagher in 1858. Joining the RIC as a cadet in 1879, he served as a senior officer across Ireland during the Land War. On his retirement from police work, he served as a resident magistrate. Early in the War of Independence, He was called to Dublin to improve British intelligence capabilities and to examine Republican finances. And in March 1920, Bell was shot by members of Michael Collins' squad who took him from a crowded tram at Ballsbridge.
Kathleen Kingston was born at Birr in 1879. An activist in the Gaelic League, it was there that she first met Cathal Brugha in 1909. The couple married in 1912 and went on to have 6 children. Cathal was severely wounded during the 1916 Rising and later served as Minister of Defence in the Republican cabinet. The Brugha family home was regularly raided during the War of Independence. Opposing the treaty, Cathal was killed in the opening stages of the Civil War in July 1922. In 1923, Kathleen was elected a Sinn Féin TD for Waterford and served as an abstentionist until 1927 and established the well-known menswear shop, Kingston's, on O'Connell Street. Kathleen Brugha passed away in 1959 and she was buried at Glasnevin Cemetery.
Catherine Mahon was born in North Tipperary in 1869 and was appointed principal of Carrick National School outside Birr in 1892. She supported the Irish language revival through membership of the Gaelic League and universal suffrage through the Irish Women's Franchise League. Elected president of the Irish National Teachers Organisation in 1912, she was the first woman to hold the role. In the aftermath of the Easter Rising, Mahon raised funds for the families of Republican prisoners through the National Aid Association. At Carrick, she helped to establish a parish court, collected for the Dáil loan, held dances to raise finances and participated in first aid courses. President of the Cumann Offaly District Council, she opposed the treaty and served as a councillor on Tipperary County Council during the 1930s. Catherine Mahon moved to Balbriggan following her retirement and she passed away there in 1948.
Patrick Lopeman was born in Riverstown in 1893 and grew up in Birr. Joining the Leinster Regiment in 1915, he served in the Balkans during the Great War. After the armistice, he enlisted in the Connacht Rangers and was deployed to India. In 1920, 4 soldiers from Lopeman's unit informed their superiors that they would no longer soldier in the British Army in protest to the activities of the Black and Tans in Ireland. When these men were placed under arrest, several of their comrades, including Patrick Lopeman, joined the mutiny in solidarity. Sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, Lopeman was transferred to Woking Prison in England, from where he was released in early 1922. Returning to Birr, he worked as a labourer on building projects and council roadworks. In 1932, during the Great Depression, he led protest marches of the Birr unemployed and was later elected to the Urban Council. In 1963, Lopeman was one of the mutineers interviewed by Sam Pollock for a BBC radio documentary and subsequent book, Mutiny for the Cause. Patrick Lopeman passed away in Birr in 1971.
Matthew Kane was born in Tullamore in 1888. His brother John was killed while serving in the British Army in France during the Great War. Having joined the IRA, Matthew Kane and his nephew John Conroy were active members of the organisation's Tullamore Company. In April 1921, they took part in an attack on police in Tullamore. John Conroy was severely wounded and removed from the scene. The following morning, the body of Matthew Kane was discovered at Riverside. It has never been established if Kane died from wounds received while attempting to ambush police, or as some rumours suggested, if he was shot dead after being captured.
In July 1921, the body of a man was discovered outside Tullamore. Attached to his corpse was a label, Convicted Spy, Oric Steedman, ex-soldier, Birmingham, tried, convicted and executed on the 9th of July 1921. Sooner or later, we get them. beware of the IRA. Later that summer, the Birmingham police conducted a large-scale investigation to locate the deceased family. Advertisements were placed in local newspapers, and all houses in the city where a Steedman was listed as living were visited, but no trace of the dead man was uncovered.
Patrick Gerrahy was born at Old Town, Roxford Bridge around 1890. A member of the IRA, Gerrahy served as OC of the 3rd Battalion, Offaly No. 1 Brigade. Opposed to the treaty, he and Joe Byrne were captured at a Republican safe house in Croghan in November 1922. Gerrahy and Byrne were executed by firing squad at Portlaoise Prison in January 1923.
John Gunning was born in Kildare in 1891. He joined the Leinster Regiment at Birr in 1911 and fought in the Great War with the 10th Irish Division. In February 1923, he joined the National Army and was stationed at Roscrea. Later that month, he was part of a cycle detachment sent to deal with a land dispute. At Moneygall, his unit was attacked by an anti-treaty flying column which had been hiding out in the area, and Gunning and Sergeant Pat Byrne from Roscrea were killed.
Aidan, as I was saying to you, it's a crucially important period in Irish history, that period that you focused on. But it's a turbulent period, and it's not that long ago. And I suppose maybe there's still scars from that period. Have you, and I know the answer to this because I read it, how have you taken it? You haven't avoided it.
No, I don't think you can. You're doing a disservice to yourself and to everybody else if you do. I was talking to an archivist lately, and she said the first advice she got when she went into her job was, remember 100 years ago isn't that long ago, just like you said. And there are still people who that's very personal for. We're into history, and some people are, some people aren't. But those of us are into history. Sometimes we're so into it, we don't realise that this is a real lived experience. It's not a computer game. People didn't come home. Some people died in ambushes. Some people suffered ill health. Some people were executed during the Civil War. Some people lived through it, but lived with some of the issues that came from that afterwards. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. But it does mean that when we talk about it, we have to be serious about it. And I don't mean that in a sort of grim way, but we have to be serious in that we treat it with respect, that we try, when we talk about it, to be as accurate as we can and to present the facts as best we can and try and make it accessible and that people can learn from that. I've never, how many times, I don't think I've ever changed anyone's opinion about anything, but I like to think when this is over, that I've given people enough facts, and most of them are garnered from other historians anyway, but that we've given them enough facts that they can make an informed opinion.
And hopefully this evening we've tweaked people's interest in this, and if we haven't, it's not the fault of your work because it is a fascinating work. How does someone get to it? How does someone uncover all of this information?
Well, simple enough. Revolution in Profiles, Offaly.com. The site is there. It's totally free. There's no charge. People get very suspicious of you when you say that. I think like it's sort of like a phone call or something, or a text message or something like that. There's no charge. Revolution in Profiles, Offaly.com.